Thank you. At the end of the classic movie Casablanca, the inspector issues an order to round up the usual suspects. And every time our friends on the other side of the aisle have a horrific act that's done or alleged to be done by one of their allies, they issue a similar order to round up the usual excuses. We've heard them all here today. Don't believe your eyes and your ears and what you hear on the video. Look somewhere else. And for goodness sake, don't focus on this horrific act when you could be focusing on some other horrific act that people we like might have or don't like might have committed. This is just political theater. Somehow or the other, if you are sensitive and don't like the fact that an unborn child is torn apart limb by limb, you really aren't talking about that. You have some kind of massive attack on women in general. And don't look at the horrific act that this group might have done, because after all, they might have done some other good acts that weren't horrific. And excuses go on and on. And the reality is there is simply no point. There is nothing that our friends on the other side of the aisle would look at this organization and say, we might like you, but that's just too far, and we can't condone that. And Mr. Chairman, I would like to now show a video, since this seems to be the day of the video, if we could roll that.
It's very rare that people just have it
to bring the body cavity out and tackle all that.
So then you're just kind of cognizant of where you put your breast first. You try to intentionally go above and below the thorax so that, you know, we've been very good at getting heart, lung, liver, because we know that, so I'm not going to crush that part. I'm going to basically crush below, I'm going to crush above, and I'm going to see that get out intact.
Now, Mr. Chairman, we've heard a lot today about editing of videos. There's no evidence, Ms. Fredrickson, I think that you have at all, that this video has been edited or anything has been added to it. So the procedures that were discussed in there of crushing an unborn child in more than one place. So an unborn child, by the way, that has a heart, a lung, and a liver that's so well developed that Planned Parenthood would want to save the heart, the lung, and the liver, but would not want to save the life that created it. Just one simple question, is that procedure too brutal for you?
Well, sir, I'd like to respond by saying that as you started describing this as political theater, I'd like to reiterate that this is...
No, ma'am, you can do what you want. If you don't want to answer the question, no, but you're not going to run the clock out on me.
I'm going to say that
yes or no, is it too brutal? I know you don't want to answer that.
Ultimately, this is an attack on women's ability.
That may be, but I've got 5 minutes. You can answer it or not. Do you feel that procedure is too brutal? And I understand if you don't want to answer it, but can you say whether you feel it's too brutal or not, yes or no?
Sir, I feel abortion should be safe and legal.
Is that procedure too brutal?
I am not a doctor, and I can't comment on...
Let me ask you this question. If you had a small dog and you had to put that dog to sleep, would you think it would be too brutal for the veterinarian to crush that dog in 2 different places?
I trust women and their doctors to determine what are the best...
Let the record show that Ms. Fredrickson would not answer the question. Dr. Levantino, is that too brutal?
Every abortion involves the destruction of human life. I get frustrated sometimes with the, oh, it's not a baby, it's a fetus. I think we've mostly got beyond the old blob of cells argument. You know what that is? That's your son. That's your daughter. Every abortion results in a dead son or daughter. I think it's absolutely gruesome. And I thought the example you just gave a minute ago was perfect. If I abused a dog in my town, I'd be arrested. If I did abortions again, first trimester, second trimester, I'd be a hero to so many people. It's absurd.
And Mr. Chairman, just for the record, you know, the point that I think disturbs so many of us is the exact response we heard from Ms. Fredrickson. They won't say that any procedure is too far or not enough or is too brutal. And that's the purpose of these hearings, because there's a big difference between saying there may not be a law to protect against something that may not be illegal and to say there was no wrongdoing done, because I think what we heard on that tape was wrongdoing. And with that, Mr. Chairman,